to believe them. And in that moment, that fraction of an instant is when you lose your money, you lose your economy, and you lose your country.
Yeah, because a bunch of people are posing like liberals and conservatives when they're all part of a criminal group who I was talking to the Goldman Sachs former top executive who made this documentary, A Greater Good, about vaccines killing people. Now all the documents have come out. They know they don't help you. They hurt you. It's actually spreading the disease. And she said she was a Goldman Sachs exec, managing director, and she had this Goldman Sachs, this big pharma guy in the meeting with her. And he said, I'm going to make $7 million this year killing people. And he thought she was part of the club. That's when she woke up. He was telling her how much fun it was to kill people with the vaccines. And that's the crazy thing about these people. A lot of them, it's not just about power and stealing and being dominant. They really like killing people. They love the idea as the head of a big company that they're going to kill millions of people and that the hospitals are going to cover it up. I mean, it's like a really big rush for them. Zbigniew Brzezinski writes books and brags about how he triggered a group to kill millions and how cool it is, that he helped put Pol Pot in, who killed 30% of his population. And when he goes and gives a speech, the globalists are in awe of him. It's like, my God, he killed a lot of people. He's really tough. I mean, these are demons.
Well, once you scapegoat a part of the population, then they're marked for death. So in America, the poor have been scapegoated. I mean, during World War II, obviously, ethnic groups were scapegoated. They were vilified, and they were slaughtered. In America, the scapegoating goes on in terms of the poor people. Poor people are considered to be socially misfits, and that they are basically being targeted. And all the rhetoric out there, like a Mitt Romney character, for example, seems to put over this idea. Like he just said, for example, Alex, I got to ask you this question. He said, talking about Israel and Palestine, that Israel was more successful than Palestine because they were culturally superior. How is that different than the same eugenicist message of Hitler in the 30s and 40s?
No, we see this more and more. And look, we have become a very, very dark culture. And even those of us that don't like it have just become accustomed to it. Because when you dance with the devil, he doesn't change, he changes you. I want to go to some calls, but they're getting ready for all these big wars. Let me ask you this, because I want to do one more segment after this, but I want to go to calls right now. What do you make of the fact that, a year ago it was in a few newspapers that the West was putting Al-Qaeda in Libya. Now it's all over the news, and the London Guardian's like, well, Al-Qaeda's got good discipline. They're actually saying Al-Qaeda are good guys and work for the West, but then I need to give my rights up because Al-Qaeda's hiding under the table.
Well, I saw something today that made me laugh. Vladimir Putin came out with a big statement today and said that he believes that NATO should stay in Afghanistan until the job is done. When you think about it, that's such a beautiful statement because, of course, that's where Russia, the Soviet Union, basically died in Afghanistan. It's where empires go to die. And so the U.S. is embroiled in this Mideast conflagration that looks like it's going to end up in the death of the U.S. empire as well. And so there's Vladimir Putin basically just smiling and saying, yes, go for it, America. NATO should stay in Afghanistan. And of course, Al-Qaeda was working for us back then. Then they switched sides. Now they're working for us again on our side. They go back and forth. They were with us. They were against us. They were with us. And also, you mentioned HSBC earlier, Alex. Now what's come out in the last week, again, to follow up the story you've been covering for 10 years on 9/11, it now has come out that HSBC funded the 9/11 terrorists. If you connect all the dots, money that they were laundering for terrorists, that's now a headline in major newspapers all over the world, extends back 10 years. So now we know where the funding came from. $500,000 needed to do the 9/11 attacks. It came in part from HSBC.
And again, it's not just funding it, they're running it. It's like Wells Fargo running the aircraft for the Sinaloa group. I mean, this is who they are. They run it. They are the organized crime, and they're going to take everything we've got, and they've got the police training right now to kill us. And we better reach out to the police now and wake them up. Let's go to Scott in Idaho. You're on the air with Max Keiser. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Max. Thank you both for your efforts in the battle for liberty and the cause of freedom. I have a very brief comment and a question for Max and or yourself.
Okay.
My comment is, what I think I hear you saying, Alex, is that we're fast approaching the stage of the ultimate inversion, the stage where the government is free to do anything it pleases while the citizens can act only by permission, which is the stage of the darkest periods of human history, the stage of rule by brute force. My question is, Alex and Max, it's been my experience over the past few decades that shortly after waking up, many people experience bouts of depression due to the paradigm shift, the new and true reality. What advice can you give people listening to deal with this?
I would say fight in the info war. Get aggressive. If you're depressed, if you're doing nothing, you're going to be exhilarated and become more vicious with the truth as you fight, as you take scalps of enemies, as you crush the enemy who needs to be driven out. Max Keiser.
No, it's a real good question, because you have to weigh the pros and cons of being awake and maybe suffering the reality of being awake. Or it's like that scene in The Matrix where he decides to go back into the Matrix. The steak tastes great. I don't care that I'm a slave living in the Matrix. I love the taste of this steak, and he wants to go back into the Matrix. It's a very profound moment in that film.
Hold on, more calls coming up. We'll be right back. This Matrix leads to death.